Yes. Okay, we are live. Yay. Perfect. Okay. Giving you guys some time to come on in as we get ready for today's discussion. So let me get my glasses on because I'm going to be doing some reading today. So I'm going to put my glasses on so that I can see. Hello, Grand Rising, Raven. Good morning. Awesome. Perfect. Letting you guys come on in. So as you guys see from the title, today we're going to talk about conversations with God. Conversations with God. So this is Tahiri Divine. Thank you for tuning in. You can find me on all my social sites as Tahiri Divine, where we are not just the student, but we're also the teacher, where we are here to learn and teach and grow for the transcendence in our freedom and our finances, our spiritual lives, our physical lives, our emotional lives, and our mental lives. So we are a holistic approach to spirituality and practicality, and blending the two into our lives so that we can live the most abundant life possible here in this existence that we are in. So today we are going into the power of prayer. Today is day 13. We are halfway through, guys. Oh my God, I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so proud of myself. I'm proud of y'all. We sticking through this thing. But yeah, so we are going into today's day 13, and today's topic is conversations with God. So this was brought to me by a book that I have been reading. I've heard of this book before, but it has came back into my into my way, and I was like, you know what, let's just go ahead and get it. This is the third time I heard about this book within like a few months and together, so I got the book. So I actually got the whole series, which is a 3-part series in a one version called Conversations with God, by Neale Donald Walsch, and it's an uncommon dialogue. It is a very, very interesting read if you're just looking to see how to hear from God. Pretty much the whole book is more so a channeling of some sort. But I definitely like the approach that the author took with this book, and how it has very simple ways to understand how, not just how, but just to watch this conversation between Neale and God unfold. So yeah, so I'm going to just give some excerpts from today's from this book and today's topic as we talk about conversations with God. Hello, I see you guys are coming in. Instagram, hey. So I'm gonna read from book 1. There's an excerpt in here that I thought was very interesting. Of course, I'll leave the links in the description for the book if you guys are interested in this book yourself. A very nice, interesting read, and it is a nice perspective. And the reason why I'm bringing up this book is I get conversations just talking with people, and being in the type of work that I do, or being open, I should say, to the type of work that I do. I get a lot of people who ask me a lot of questions, and one of them being, how do you know if you're hearing from God, or how do you know you're hearing from your higher self or your intuition? And one thing I always refer back to, which is just a basis mine, is like in the Bible when Jesus says, "My sheep will know my voice." And so I can only tell you is you will know your voice. You know your voice. And there's exercises to be done to help you clear out, or at least sift through the noise in your own mind. Because what's important to understand is when we're talking about spiritual warfare, we're talking about the battlefield is always the mind, and the prize is the soul. And it is going to be imperative in these times that we're in is that we are ensuring that we know our own voice. And that is something that I've definitely stressed, and that's been my own journey, is to to know your voice and to know your and to trust your intuition and to trust that part of yourself that gives you the triggers to know when something is right for you and to know when something should be repelled. And that's what I really want my platform to be, is a medium to help you and myself go back to self source. What is the source? And I'll work from there. But anyway, so that is kind of the topic of today. And of course, my whole entire platform is all about that. So we're going to talk about conversations with God. And okay, I see you guys coming through Instagram. Hey, hi, hey, hey. And so this is what today's topic is going to be on. So I'm going to read an excerpt from this book that I thought was interesting. And I definitely recommend anybody who is just interested in just watching an unfoldment of a conversation with God, do so. What I thought was interesting about how the author Neale came about writing this was, like many of us, we journal when we are having an emotional release or just or just want to journal to release some build up tension. And journaling has been like an avenue that helps do that. That's been one of my avenues that helps me journaling. What I noticed early on in my journaling, well, I didn't notice then, but as I was reflecting back, I noticed that most of my journaling that I did was more so a venting, like a rant or venting. And when it just came to me so ever naturally one day when I was venting, to instead of writing out my frustrations, why not write out a conversation with the said frustration? And that's typically how this author came up with his book, Conversation with God. It went from him venting in his journal, diary, whatever, to all of a sudden have conversations. And he was saying, as he was writing down his venting process or venting, and then he was just like, you know, how we always ask, why me? Why is this happening? I don't understand any of this. You know, he was asking these questions when he's journaling, and he just stopped. And then he said he just felt his hand continue to write. And at this point, it was like a response to all his inquiries that he was asking. It was more so, are you here to vent or are you here to get truth? And, you know, we're like, well, I want the truth. And then thus forth, he got this book. So I just thought it was interesting story how he came to this book. And I like how it's written. It has his questions, and then in blue or in another color is the responses from said God. And I like how that came about. So let me go ahead and go where I wanted to read it into. So I'm going to start on page 12, because I thought this part was interesting, where it talks about his conversation. And see, I always felt like the evil powers that be always try to interrupt or infiltrate information in our conversation with God. Yeah, they do. And that's the thing, you know, the evil powers or the principalities or entities or whatever have you, you know, they don't want you to have your connection with God. They don't want you to realize that part of yourself. You know, that's very much true. And we don't ignore that. And that's why mental toughness is one of my stands that I stand on as far as building up the mind. Because, you know, they say a mind is a terrible thing to waste. When we build up the mind and we have more control over our thoughts and our mind, we are able to filter out any infiltrations that may try to come in, whether subconsciously or consciously. So I'm an advocate as understanding the mind is the battlefield. That is where that's where the battle takes place, is all in the mind. And most of these entities, again, I don't want anybody to think that these things are outside of you. It's not. Everything is an internal. It's just as what we're privy to at the time that we're privy to it. Now, we can have some externalities as far as in our experiences, but there's nothing externally outside of you trying to attack you. It's more so of an internal part of yourself. So it's always good to know, who are you hosting? Is it just you or is somebody else up in there? But yeah, so let's go straight into it. So this conversation, I'm gonna start right here. It says, Neale wrote, so let's enter the dialogue with the question I had been asking for a very long time. How does God talk and to whom? When I asked this question, here's the answer I received. And this is the answer he received. It says, I talk to everyone. This is God speaking all the time. The question is not to whom do I talk, but who listens. I was intrigued, Neale says, as I asked God to expand on this subject. Here's what God had to say. First, let's exchange the word talk with the word communicate. It's much better word, a much fuller, more accurate one. When we try to speak to each other, me to you, you to me, we are immediately constricted by the unbelievable limitation of words. For this reason, I do not communicate by words alone. In fact, rarely do I do so. My most common form of communication is through feeling. Feeling is the language of the soul. If you want to know what's true for you about something, look to how you're feeling about it. Feelings are sometimes difficult to discover and often even more difficult to acknowledge. Yet hidden in your deepest feelings is your highest truth. The trick is to get those feelings. I will show you how, again, if you wish. So I'm going to end right there for a second about conversations with God and understanding our language structure that we have. Many of us, we're speaking English, and that's the language that we know, and maybe the only language we know. And I like how he was saying, or how God was describing that God speaks to us not through words alone. And sometimes that's what we are looking for when we're looking for a sign from God, or the voice of God. We're looking for an audible sound. We're looking for words, which our higher power, source, God, however you want to call it, doesn't necessarily always use that, because there is limitations in what our words say or how they're used. And even with English, English is a wonderful, actually interesting, beautiful language. However, there's a lot of snares and traps within the English language. So I like to unpack this conversation about feelings, how God speaks to us through our feelings. And one thing that we typically do, we misplace the word feelings for emotions, or emotions for feelings. When we say things like get out your feelings, we're talking about your emotions, get out of your emotions, but we equate emotions and feelings to be the same thing when they're necessarily not. If we really just break it down to just the base essence of a thing, your emotions is your emotional nature. The ebb and flow of anger, sad, happy, scared, joy. These are fluctuations of emotions that we feel. A feeling, however, is the trigger point before the emotion comes. And that's what I believe where God speaks to us, is through a feeling. Like, let's say you step into a room and you feel there's a different type of energy in the room, right? I like to look at that as that's a God talk right there. That's God talk. God's giving you a feeling, and your soul understands feeling more so than it does the words that we speak. I try to talk to God while being a man in camouflage, but every so often I find my own self being vulnerable to God. Difficult to say how I feel about God, so some days I am silent. Yeah, and that's for, we all have to unpack what God is for us. For me personally, God to me is source creator, the divine, the source, prime source creator. And that, from my perspective, is that we are all fractions of this source God creator, and that God source creator is experiencing itself through us, through the trees, through the animals, through humanity, through everything that we have as an existence, as a natural existence in Earth or this realm or in the universe in general. That's my essence of how I view or see God, and how I see God through us. So when we are conversing with that aspect of ourselves, typically we have a perceived preconceived idea of what we think God is based on whatever the religion that we grew up in or whatever spiritual practice that we may have been in, or maybe we didn't have any of that at all. So we kind of have this construct on we expect God to be this high, disconnected being that is a moral judge of us, where I don't even believe morals is something that God, the higher power source itself, weighs upon. And I say that because we have to, for me, if we say all is everything and nothing is everything at the same time and everything is nothing, then if God created everything, we have to recognize that God also created the bad, or what we perceive to be bad things, right? And if we look at life and God as an experience, then there is a level or a part of God that experiences itself as being bad, if that makes sense. It's like the Most High God, the source says to me through intelligence, you get the more difficult your life will get. It's like the Most High God, the source says to me, the more intelligent you get, the more difficult your life will get. That's interesting. I don't think it's so much the more intelligence we get, the more difficult our life get. And I'm not to take away what you feel, which was said to you. That's not for me to take away from that. My perspective on what you're saying is that to much acquired, much responsibility comes with that. I think that's one from Spider-Man, but that's like a real life quote. The more we gather, the more responsibility we have with what we know. And this is one thing why I don't stress or tell people to slow down. You don't have to be part of every single new age movement or every single new spiritual practice or every single thing. It's okay to slow down and be on your path. If you're set to be on a particular path, whether it's a religion path, whether it's a cultic path, whatever path that you're on, stick to your path. You don't have to rush it. And sometimes we want to rush knowledge. We see somebody who's doing something specifically that we want to achieve to do. So we try to rush the process to get there when there is perfection in the process. There is perfection in the process. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to try to zoom through it. Allow your life to unfold naturally with where you're at. And you're going to get to where you're going to get to. I strongly believe that we'll get to where we get to. But when we try to compare ourselves to, oh, I should be this far, or I should be doing that, or I should be having this many people following me and hearing what I have to say, that there is now how we get off our path, because now we're trying to speed something or bring in something that we may not necessarily be ready for. And so that is a perspective, I say, with much intelligence comes much great responsibility. The more you know, the more you're responsible for what you do with what you know. I want to go into this other part of the book. Like, I'm only in the first book. It's a 3-part series book. And I'm telling you, like, the first book is like, wow. I already made like the 75th page in this first book. Let's see. There was a part in here that I really, really wanted to go through. That would evidence the truth of who you are, but doubt or question. Let's see. Peace. What are your thoughts on soul contracts? Yeah, soul contracts. Let's talk about that. This is the thing. I do believe that before we incarnate, we do make soul contracts. And this is where people might get the concept of twin flames, karmics. What's the other one? Just people that come in our life path. And I do believe that we make these soul contracts prior to coming here. I used to say that Earth is a school and we come here to learn, but I want to correct that. It's not so much that we come here to learn. We came here to remember. And there's a portion in the book, which I've always felt like this, but I think the book was able to describe it more elegantly than or just describe the feeling. I've always felt like this concept of God, if we put it in the Christian perspective, that we know God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit, like this Trinity kind of concept. You kind of see this Trinity concept in everything, mind, body, spirit. We see it in subconscious, conscious. Was it subconscious, conscious, and unconscious mind? So we see it in psychology, we see it in science, we see this three-part triune identity, right? So I look at the soul contract aspect being God, the essence or the creator, which is the all knowing, and then also God, the experience, which is the beings on earth and this in the universe, the beings in the universe. And then that's God experiencing, and then God, the spirit, which is more so the space between our reality world and the spirit world. Kind of like when you look at the yin yang symbol, you have the white and the black, and then the dot in between the both of them. And then in between them is a line that separates them. And that right there is, to me, is considered like spirit or the middle path. And I see it now as soul contracts being we make contracts or agreements with other souls to be either our parents, to be a specific lover, to be a person that is going to be a catalyst in our remembrance of ourselves. And that is where the soul contracts come into play. I know sometimes people think if you have a contract with somebody that your contract is indefinite for your lifetime or your life cycle. Sometimes your contract is just that experience that you may have with a person. And that is just all that there is to it. So that's my thoughts on soul contracts, but I'll have to do another specific video to go more into detail with that. My path consists of people calling me crazy, but I swear I ain't crazy. It's just every second of the moment in denial. I feel as though I might not be ready for God, knows, but won't speak up for me. I look at God like a child that's handicapped that rides the yellow bus. One real look, God leaves you like the kids on the Ritalin stuck. That peace, some say we come here dismember to remember. Yeah. Okay, Money Rider Fish. I see. I think I kind of see where you're going with it. Yes, I'm not here to tell you how to see it or how to view it, but that is something to unpack and to really sit with yourself on. As far as God, I think there's so many definitions of what God is, and God's more so a title than anything. But what do we call God in our life, right? Yeah. But yes, I'm more on the spectrum or the perspective that Earth, or when we come into existence, that we're here to remember. And that's what we're here to do. And there's going to be people that's going to be here to help us remember. And we give ourselves signs and symbols, whether it's, for some people it was 11/11, seeing 11/11. For some people it was a health crisis. For some people it was a financial crisis that got their attention to shift their perspective. So it's different for everybody. But in talking about that conversations with God, that is I think that's one of the moments that we have within ourselves when we're having conversations in our mind with ourselves, and clearing out our headspace to ensure that it's just only us in here. Like, okay, who's in here talking to me? Is it what my teacher told me back in third grade? Is it my mama's ideology and belief systems? Is it the people I grew up around? Is it music? Is it celebrities? Whatever information that we stored in our informative years that is now just sitting in our minds and sitting in our hearts and our spirits, is that something that we truly resonate with, or is these other imprints on us? So that's how I like to view that. And as we grow up and become an age of knowing, an age of responsibility, it's now up to us to find out, well, do these ideologies and belief systems even resonate with me? Is this on my path in my life? And that is something I truly think that we should, we can all work through and figure that out. Is memories part of material substance? When you die, do you take the memories with you, or do you leave it behind along with your material substance? No, I don't think memories are material. I feel memories is what we take with us if we choose to. Um, and that's why I think that's when they say when we come to Earth, we come here to remember ourselves. Kind of like the story similar to with Isis or Osset in Asar or Osiris, just depending what names you guys decide to use. The story goes that Osset and Osar were husband and wife, and Set, the jealous brother, didn't like that. So he had a battle with Osar, and in doing so, he chopped them up into many pieces and dispersed his pieces throughout the world. Isis or Osset came and had to put him back together. In doing so, she was able to put all the pieces of him together except for his phallus, right? His creative wand or whatever. And in putting him back together, she was able to restore him and make him the king of the underworld. However, she wasn't able to impregnate herself with him because she couldn't find his phallus. Anyway, the story goes, she later becomes impregnated with the divine sun child. So what is the story saying? I liken this story to how our experience is on Earth. We could say Isis represents the subconscious mind, Osar represents the conscious mind, and then Set could be the representation of our, is it with the subconscious, unconscious, and conscious, I think? Correct me if I'm wrong on there. But Set represents the part of the mind that wants to take over the conscious mind. So there it splits up the conscious mind, right? And our subconscious, the Isis, is what puts it all back together, right? And in putting it back together, merging the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, you create what is known as the divine sun child, or the Horus, the hero, who is now able to walk in both realms. Kind of like in the story of Blade, the Daywalker. That's a good one. You know, how he was able to be in both day and light because of the mixture or the combination of the two, the merging of some sorts. So that's a way to look at that as well, as we talk about our memories is what comes with us and what we store in it. We store a lot of information, and that's something to know how to take. And that's why I say take things as information. And if it applies, if you're able to process it and apply it somewhere, apply it properly in life. If you don't find where it can be applied, either store it away and see if it comes up later, or you can just completely abandon it if you don't feel like you want to store up much information. But yeah, so we're talking about conversation with God today, day 13 on the power of prayer. I'm really enjoying this series with you guys. This has been a very revealing. Is that the word I'm looking for? Revealing for me too in my own life, as I taking more of this active step and approach into my own life and seeing how this unfoldment takes place. And this is fun. This is beautiful. It's fun. It's revealing. It's a lot of things, and it's a great time to be in. But all right, if there's no more questions or other insights you guys like to share, we're gonna get ready to call it a day. All righty. Well, thank you guys for tuning in and kicking it with me today. As we do every Monday through Friday, we come here to talk about the power of prayer, and we go into different series here. I'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place, right here. Until next time, I will talk with you all again. I wish you all health, wealth, and wisdom in all the days of your lives. Until next time, peace, y'all.